Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about mindset and lifestyle. We're going to be bringing on another mindset coach with a unique history and unique backstory. And I love the idea, the concept of his backstory and how he kind of related what he learned in an old profession and how he does it in his new profession of helping individuals with their life. Before you get into the episode, we do our best to not get that trigger response of he does what, he's relating me to this type of person. Understand that in life, you can have a job that might be, oh no, that job is not going to correlate to anything I do. For example, let's say you're a potter. You make pottery, you make vases, and you make plates and stuff like that. But yet, that job is teaching you something about life. Maybe patience. So we can learn different aspects from different jobs, from different works, from different walks of life. It doesn't necessarily matter of the profession, it's what we get in it. And sometimes people think, oh, this profession is not going to correlate, or this degree is not going to correlate to something else. And it might be like you're doing something totally new. For example, if you are a teacher and then you want to get into accounting, business, finance, well, it depends on what type of teacher you are, number one. Maybe you could be a math teacher, and it makes sense. But maybe you're just a kindergarten teacher, now you want to do accounting and finance. You would have to look at what type of skills you learned in that kindergarten classroom, and then how can you relate it to the accounting world? There can be correlations. I can't think of any right now because I never really thought about what type of skills does a kindergarten teacher have that an accountant has. Maybe organization, if I had to think of on the top of my head. You have to be organized to be an accountant. You have to be organized to a degree to be a kindergarten teacher because you have a bunch of 4-year-olds running around and you have to corral them. You have to educate them and you have to fixate them on learning and their growth. Today, we're going to fixate on that mindset. We're going to look at our learning, our growth, and our potential with my guest, Stephen Avent. Welcome, Stephen Avent, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you. And yourself?
Doing well. Thanks so much for coming on. Today, I have you on as a mindset and lifestyle coach. We're going to be talking about your work, and you do have a unique backstory to how you got into coaching. And I definitely want to talk about that because your work that you did with training some animal, we're not going to get into, I'm going to let you talk about it, how you kind of used that knowledge and then just kind of said, oh, I can help people in the same way. And we're going to look at the pros and cons of that because sometimes people can think of, wait, I'm not this type of person, but it's a whole mindset to it. Let's tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help.
So, as I said, my name is Stephen Avent. I'm with My Brother's Keeper Coaching. I'm a lifestyle and mindset coach. So basically what I'm here to do is help give people a path to bring their life to a place that can give them the fulfillment, motivation, and overall lifestyle that really can enable them to live to the best of their capabilities.
Okay. And how did you get into the work of helping people with their mindset and their lifestyle?
So, like most people in this field, I really went through struggles of my own, found a path that was able to help me. And once I saw the degree at which it impacted my life, there was really nothing more that I could do than to offer this to others.
Okay, that makes sense. And so I hinted at the work you did before you got into coaching. Do you mind telling people what that was and then how you used those skills?
So, I came out of almost 2 decades of elite level dog obedience protection training, working with behavioral modification, basically developing dogs to be their best version of self. Through a lot of this, I mean, the reality is that although the dogs need training, it's really the people that need the most training. We take these creatures into our lives, which are fundamentally alien species that we adopt into our lifestyle. And most people go into this thinking that they know what they're doing and they can manage it well. And often the worst case scenario is that somebody's had a good dog in some stage of their life and thought they did the training, but they typically just had a submissive dog that sort of fell into place easily. And this gave them the notion that they knew what they were doing, and then they go into a more advanced breed often, find out the hard way that it wasn't in fact them that knew what they were doing. They just got lucky the first go around. And it's not usually until it's a little bit too late that they actually go out seeking assistance. Through all of this, I recognized that the process that I had been working with for so long in the dog training world was fundamentally the same as the one that I had adopted in my coaching life. And this is what helped me really get into the program and adhere to it so fundamentally well and so quickly, because I had in essence been dealing with the same thing for almost 2 decades or my training. Sorry. And so basically what this is setting up a lifestyle that will develop the dog in that case to have structure, guidance, and expectation that gives them reward and basically gives them a pattern to live that will develop them mentally, physically, and really even emotionally, keeping them happy to develop them into the best dog they can be. And then so I've transferred all of this into helping people to do the same.
That makes sense. But then there's always going to be that aspect of people who might say, I'm not a dog or something along those lines where they feel like they're being trained. Do you find that it's about the idea of if you're trainable, like obedience, versus if you are someone who's looking for potential? Because you said early on that you help the dog find their full potential or help people figure out, okay, if you had a submissive dog and now you fell into the role of a good dog owner, but then you upgrade to a higher level, maybe success in the human terms, but for the aspect of the owner and the dog, you said they become or they get a difficult breed or more difficult breed. Do you find there's a correlation between that and coaching?
I think when we look at it in the dog versus human sense, we do get a lot of, or I tend to get a lot of blowback in the sense that a lot of people are like, I'm not a dog, and they take offense to this. And I mean, of course, we're not dogs. And the fundamental difference being when I'm training with a dog, they don't have the option to opt in or out of the training, which in essence gives me 100% success because I get to impose my will and structure their day in the way that I know will benefit them best. Now, when we move into the people, into the coaching, it's not the same, obviously, because we have free will and we are a reasoning species. In that case, it's people that want it that do best. If you're coming into this looking for a magic pill, it is not that. This is something that you have to want and you're going to have to work at. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm seeing the potential once again, and I'm guiding them and I'm motivating them and I'm keeping them accountable. But ultimately, they have to choose to be there. They have to choose to show up and they have to want it in order for it to work. And this is at every level and every stage of the way. That is the fundamental difference between the two. And ultimately, when I say that it is similar, I mean, there's a lot of congruency to it, but regardless of the similarities, when it comes to people and coaching opposed to training, it really is that they have to show up and do what it is that's going to get them to that next level.
Yeah, coaching is much more about the person and giving them the drive than to tell them what to do all the time. I know
Yeah.
sometimes people think if they get some coaching, they'll say, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But yet that is so far from the truth because if you're not there, then all of a sudden, no one's telling them what to do anymore. So now they're going to fall back into their old habits. And that could be a bad thing because most people need to learn how to be self sufficient by themselves and not necessarily need a coach looking at them and saying, hey, did you go to the gym? Hey, did you do this? It's not so much that we want to give you the skills. We want to equip you with everything you need. So if you're by yourself and you're with your mind, you just do the right things. You're making the right choices. You're becoming disciplined. You're being consistent. Those things are instilled in you. And I find that when you go through some level of training and coaching, you're going to be better equipped to handle it after the training and coaching. For example, let's go back to the dog stuff again. If you train a dog, let's say when they're a puppy, maybe you do some maintenance work here and there, but that's going to be the foundation for them. Same thing we do with children in school, right? We train them in school, we teach them how to sit, how to raise their hands. In a sense, we are training them just like as we would a dog. We're saying, don't be too loud, right? Be quiet, right? If you need something, bark or something like that, or raise your hand. So there's a correlation between how we teach and then how we train. But what happens, I find, is if you teach in that way and you're not pragmatic about it, eventually you have to break that habit. So the expectation typically when we first start education, especially here in America, and I'm sure in other parts of the world too, where like our individualism is shut down so quickly. So if you're an energetic person, if you are boisterous, maybe you're a kinesthetic learner, you like dancing, like moving, but yet you're in class all day and you have to sit still. We have to get out of maybe our old way of training and thinking and start to being more in line with what feels natural to us. I find that when you can get to that natural training, it has a greater impact on your discipline and just doing things later on in life. So it's not like you have that imposter syndrome. You feel like you are doing the right thing and you are doing the right thing. But again, it's more difficult for people who kind of conform. So I want to talk to you about that. Your work as a dog trainer, you would impose your will, you said, onto the dog. The dog didn't have a choice. Do you find that people might be in that mindset of not having a choice because of what society might say to them, saying you have to be this type of person, you have to have this type of job, etc.?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the dogs, it was my job to recognize the difference in each dog and what they required because they're not going to be able to tell me. They're not going to be able to experience what it is that they have to in order to grow into their own being. And that's a lack of a reasoning ability. Whereas with people, I think having a general imprint of what is best and what's going to maximize your abilities in a general sense, but then having your natural being supported and developed along the way is essential. If you're just put into a box, I think this is where so often we have people getting depressed and anxious because they're being told that they have to behave a certain way that is fundamentally against their core being. Whereas if we can teach the general practices that will enable you to be a balanced, healthy human, and then allow for the individualism to flourish along the way, this is where we're going to get a better developed person that is actually happy with the person that they've become rather than they've followed a path that they were instructed in taking. And I think, once again, going back to that reasoning species capability, this is where if we're constantly following what we're told, regardless of if we put any thought into it and question whether it does reflect us well, we are going to end up in a place that we don't feel that we're really being true to ourselves at our core. And when that happens, you don't know what you're going to do to basically rebel against it. And I think often this is drugs and alcohol come into play with this because we're looking to hide from the pains that we've sort of fallen into because of following the path that really wasn't true to us.
Would you say that's more like a coping mechanism at that part of life?
Coping mechanism, I mean, basically it's looking to just hide from whatever it is that you're feeling. So yeah, mechanism would be a fair term for it.
Okay. Is it like a band-aid fix? Like, for example, let's say your dog is barking and you want your dog to stop barking. Most people will say, okay, I'm gonna get a bark collar. And they throw a bark collar on the dog. And then the dog eventually learns, like, if I bark, I get shocked. Do you find that people they get into these substances, drugs, alcohol? If I take this, I feel good and I feel happy because you said something earlier, which was great. The general practice is to be a happy, healthy human. And sometimes, if we get into it, the general practices of some people is addiction, is doing the easy thing rather than looking at the hard thing and trying to fix things.
Yeah, so when we look at the dog, if the dog is barking, there's always a fundamental reason to it. Often they need to be exercised, they might be hungry, they might have to go to the bathroom. There's usually a core fundamental reason that we're then just band-aiding by correcting it and telling them not to do that. But once again, they're just going to be fighting what it is that they're trying to express to you. And eventually it can bring out other unwanted behaviors. For example, aggression might show up because they're getting frustrated that every time I tell you I need this, you're telling me no. And I definitely agree that with people, we see the same practice. If you're going to something that's inherently toxic to hide from what it is that you need in your life, I mean, this is not a fundamental positive way of handling anything in life. But of course, it is something that's very common in our society. Whereas if we go to the fundamental necessities of a human, I mean, once again, tying into what I just said about the dogs, we do need activity. We need physical exercise. This is something that no matter who you are, if you're not getting this, you're going to see the repercussions of it in your life. You need a healthy, balanced diet. And you need mental and emotional connectivity support, basically love. And if you're not getting all of this stimulation and proper additions to your life, it's going to show up in negative areas. And if you're then just going to band-aid it with drugs and alcohol to hide from the reality that you're trying to, avoid, it's only going to perpetuate the problem. And I think the easiest way of seeing this is if you're in a good lifestyle where you are active, you're eating well, you're, surrounded by loved ones, you're stimulating your brain, you're doing all these things on a regular basis, and you're achieving the proper reward that we all sort of need as humans, I feel. If you were to just pull one of those factors or a series of them for, say, a week or 30 days, you will see very clearly how important those things are to your life, because your quality of life and the way that you feel will dramatically decrease and continue to do so the longer that you have removed that contributing factor from your life. Whereas if you were to remove the alcohol that you've been band-aiding yourself with, you're going to see an improvement in your life. I think the easiest way to tell if the thing that you have present in your life is positive or negative is simply remove it for 30 days and see what the implications of that is. If you remove something that's inherently good to your life, you are going to see a negative repercussion. If you remove something like alcohol from your life, you're only going to see further improvements.
Yeah. When I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was just so busy. I couldn't go to the gym one day out of the week. I like to go 5 days minimum during the week. And I can only go 4 days that week. It was just a heavy week for me. Schedule was crazy, family crazy. And I was like, I'm losing it. So it was one day and I couldn't imagine 30 days of not being active.
Same.
Yet there's people who they'll go to work maybe 9 to 5, they'll come home and they just do nothing. And those are the people who fall into depression, who get into those bad habits, as we said, addiction, substance abuse. It's because they're not looking at the beneficial things or they're not looking at the things that they are desiring. Similar to what you said about the dog barking, right? We're not looking at their needs. How can we start to help people start to see their needs as a priority rather than something that, I'll do it later?
So number one, I think a big thing is just exposure. People need to see that other people have come from places similar to them and they've been able to achieve better places through whatever processes it is that they've, sort of worked with. And being told, and not in a way that's instructional, but in a way that's motivational, like letting people know that you are worth it. You can do this. You don't have to be this magical person to achieve this life. I think often people get stuck in this pattern where they feel that they aren't worthy. They can't achieve this. It takes something special that they don't have. But the reality is, like, we are all absolutely incredible. And the day that you recognize that about yourself and you realize that you not only deserve more, but you want more, and you expect more from your life is the day that you can start getting it. And I think the other important thing for people to realize is no matter where you are right now, the day that you decide that you want more in your life is the day that you can fundamentally change and be that person. It doesn't mean that you're going to see the results right away, but if you're overweight, the day that you decide that you want to change that and you start working towards it, you're not going to just drop all the weight in one day, but that first day that you went for a walk and you made those better conscious decisions in regards to what you ate, you are that new person already. Like, it happens immediately. You just have to then stick to that path to get the end result. And I think too often people get caught up with that end result. They think that that is the reward. What people need to understand, and once you do, and this really, you adhere to it, is that it's the path. It's always about the path. And when you fall in love with the path, I go to the gym every day, not because what it's going to do to me down the road. That's a nice bonus, knowing that I'm going to get into better shape every year, 10 years, whatever it may be. But it's how I'm going to feel while I'm doing it. It's putting me in almost a meditative state. And by the time I'm done, it doesn't matter how I went into the gym, I am leaving in an absolutely fantastic place, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And when you start to recognize that and you see that all of the reward is actually in the path, it's in that one step that you're going to take, it's a lot less daunting. You think that you got to climb this mountain. I mean, it can be so overwhelming that people just give up before they even start. But when you focus on, I have to take that one step, and it's always just about that one step, well, it's a lot easier to achieve. And then when you feel that reward from each step that you take, it can keep you going. And then, I mean, having that right social network, people that are looking to encourage you, people that want to level up themselves, but want to see you do the same. So often people are stuck in these places where they don't think they're going anywhere good. So if you bring to them this notion that you're going to do something, amazing with your life, they're just putting you down and they're going to weigh you down. And very quickly, when a concept is something new, when it's a new, fresh idea, it's very fragile. Bringing it to the wrong person can be really detrimental.
So, how would a person go about finding the right person? Because sometimes when you have a dream, you have a goal, and you might tell it to a friend that you know maybe all your life, right? Because you grew up in a certain town, you went to a certain school, and the people that you surround yourself with are the people you know and you feel maybe comfortable around them. But yet, if you tell them a dream, they can be the person that says, "What, you gonna do that? That's crazy. Yo, you'll never do that." The limiting beliefs start to kick in. How can we, true to ourselves, find the right people to put into our lives and then nurture the fragile dreams that we have?
So I think nowadays, for all of the negativity that comes around social media, for all the negativity that's portrayed around it, the one major upside that I see is that it enables us to connect with people globally that are on the same path, pretty much regardless of what path that is. So you are able to go out there and find somebody that is highly successful in whichever field it is that you would like to attach to, and you can reach out and have interactions with these people. And there's a spectrum of that ability, from just watching their content, for example, right through to attaining one-on-one coaching with these people, depending on your abilities, potentially financially, or where you're at in this process. It still gives you that ability to have one-on-one, even if it is just with content, a constant absorption of a positivity surrounding what it is that you're dreaming of doing in your life. And then, of course, there's reading, there's meditating on it, there's finding people that are in your social circle that are going to be more positive, and maybe bringing it to them before you're bringing it to the people that we know who in our circles is likely to support us and is likely to weigh the concept down and be that downer, choosing wisely who it is that you bring to, not just having the need to spread it with share it with everybody.
Yeah, and social media, they do such a bad job at, giving us numbers with the people who are in groups. So for example, we have 50 friends or we have 2,000 friends, and it's just like, is it quality over quantity or quantity over quality? And people have a hard time saying, well, I have so many friends, I should feel want, I should feel desired, but yet they can feel so empty on the inside, they don't take action. It doesn't necessarily matter about those 2,000 individuals. You should maybe find 50 people who have a growth set mindset. Because if they are on the same group, let's say we use Facebook, they have groups, let's say they are positive mindset group. So they might be in this group of individuals, but yet not every person in that group is going to have a positive mindset at every single moment. There's going to be times when that person might feel down or might not feel as ambitious. And number one, you're human, so it's natural to feel that and it's okay to feel that. But then at some level, what do you want beyond that? Do you want to stay there or do you want to get out of that type of mindset? And most people, they want to grow, they want to feel good, they want prosperity, they want happiness, they want abundance, but yet something within them, let's call it comfort, let's call it complacency, whatever, they choose not to. So even if they surround themselves with good, strong, positive people, they have a hard time getting to the next level. Let's talk about that.
So number one, I would like to say that all the social media is ultimately a tool anyways. So you have to use it accordingly. And putting your values too heavily into any one thing, that's especially if it's external, is always going to have an inherent downside to it. Now, I think that for anybody that's really looking to level up in their life, you have to be assessing where in your life can you make removals. Anything that's weighing you down in your behaviors, your mindset, especially in vices as a whole, we need to start extracting those. I mean, if you're drinking on a regular basis, I don't care what it is that you're doing in the gym and how you're eating, you are not going to be able to level up to your maximum ability. I think that removal is often at least as important as what you might add to your life. Now, once you've managed to remove all the things that you needed, at that point, we can really start amping up with what it is that's going to build you up. And I think we've already discussed enough that, fitness is something that's fundamental. It's going to get you to a place that will help establish a good foundation. And then that is going to feed into your mindset. And to me, developing your ideal mindset is fundamental to everything. I mean, without it, you are never going to be able to stay away from drinking or make sure that you do go to the gym your 5 days a week, or whatever it is that you've committed to. But then it becomes a cycle. Every time that I go to the gym, it feeds my mindset. Every time I eat well for that day and in the way that I've promised myself, it feeds my mindset. Being strong helps me to eat well the next day. It helps me to go to the gym the next. And then so by building these things into a pattern where they're really developing you cyclically, you then get to add in whatever else it is that you want to build in your life, setting platforms and structured goals for your work so that you're achieving next level production and whatever it is that you're doing. Your relationships, looking at things. One of the things that I've recognized in relationships as a whole is instead of looking at it as like, oh, I have to do something in my relationship, I look at it as, oh, I can do this. So be it in my romantic relationship with my partner, if she's busy and this chore that she would normally do is being left undone and I have the time, I don't look at it as like, oh, I'll do this for her or, oh, she can do this later. If I have time, I'm just doing it. It's basically just putting in that 100% in every aspect of your life all the time. This continues to build your inherent value inside. Instead of looking at it from a lack perspective or a victim mindset, you're looking at it as a strengthening opportunity. Everything that I can do, I do to my best capability all the time. And what this does is it builds in this resilience and it builds in this mindset that you are basically operating at your best and more or less unstoppable in everything you're doing. And then the beauty of that is that when you do fail at anything that you might be doing, be it that you didn't get to go to the gym the 5th time, you only went 4 times that week, you know that that's going to show you how important that is. And instead of looking at it as, oh, I didn't get to do this, you're like, damn, I kill it the rest of the time. And I am definitely making it 6 times next week if I can, because I value it that much and I see how important it is to my development. Taking every loss as an opportunity basically to look at the positive and grow from it. And of course, some of our bigger losses in life can be more fundamental and give that opportunity for more growth. But it's just, I think, always about establishing that whatever you're able to do it and do it with your 100%. And then if you're working at 100% of your capability, if you're not able to do something one day, but you're working at your 100%, you don't have to feel bad about it because you put your 100% in.
And even after that week, the week after I did 6, because I was just like, I gotta do it. I don't care because for me, it's about the habit. It's like I know what comfort feels like, and I want to avoid it as much as possible. Because you have people who do yo-yo dieting, yo-yo fitness, they go to the gym, don't go to the gym, New Year's resolutions. Oh, I forgot my New Year's resolutions. It's like, what are you doing? You don't have the right mindset or the focus to make it all the way to the end. And that is where I find our attention span needs to be adjusted, because when you think about our attention span right now, especially here in America, I mean, it is low, especially like our teens growing up, our college students in college right now, the attention span is so low where it's just like they're like fish. They're just like there, and then all of a sudden they're gone. It's because people have been so conditioned to look at their phone, swipe up, new thing, new thing, new thing. So in life, when they have to dig in and do something that can be repetitive and can be maybe almost monotonous, like going to the gym, it's like, I want something new. How can you help people start to go after the things that are beneficial, like fitness, like health, like success, maybe building a business that is not going to be all easy and fun and feel comfortable?
I think number one is, especially with people that are so far out of that lifestyle, like if we are talking about fitness, nutrition, is start small and reward yourself. I mean, the important thing is to be stacking wins on a regular basis because that's what's going to build your desire to keep going. If you're constantly losing, you're not going to feel good about yourself internally. If you tell yourself, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m., and then you get up out of bed at 7, and you were told yourself you're going to be at the gym by 7, but instead you skip the gym and you go out for breakfast with your friends, and then you have drinks that night, you've just stacked so many losses in your day that you're going to wake up the next day feeling like shit about yourself. And if you do this enough times in your life, you are building such a wall of negativity in your life, and that's how you feel about yourself. On the flip side of it, if instead we just start with small wins, whatever is realistic, if you naturally wake up at 9 o'clock, well, let's get you to wake up at 8:30 tomorrow. We don't need to cut it back to 4 a.m. and absolutely kill you, but let's do a little change. And by doing that, if you hold to it, you just made yourself feel good. I did it. I got up 30 minutes earlier today. And when you get out of bed, let's get you to make your bed. That's another little win. And we're just going to keep stacking those in little increments. So by the end of your day, you're going to bed likely tired, but feeling great about yourself. You know that you just did everything you were supposed to do that day. And by making these little realistic adjustments over time, we can then build in more of a routine. I think, something you touched on there was that we don't make it to the end. We do these yo-yo diets, we do these things. I think the mindset in itself needs to switch where there is no end. We don't win at life. We have to constantly be winning at life in order to be happy and basically well-rounded. Instead of thinking of anything, if you are losing weight to fit into a dress for a wedding in the spring, if you are successful at that, what does that mean once that wedding is over? Typically, it means people just throw it out the window and they go back to living the way they were before. This doesn't do us any good long term. If we're constantly focused on this momentary reward or this achievement that we need to make, we're going to fail in life at making these monumental changes, because whether we achieve that specific goal or not, it's not going to build into our lifestyle. It's not going to inherently become the way that we live. And if we want to really be successful at life, that's what we need. I think by small achievements spread out, compounded over time, and changing the perspective that we're not doing this for a goal, we're not doing this for an end purpose, we're doing this to better ourselves. And this is an ongoing practice. And instead of that being in itself like an overwhelming thought that we'll never get to be, just be comfortable again, which again, you touched on, it should be exciting. It means that for every struggle, we're going to have this great opportunity for growth. It means that we're never going to be stagnant in life. We're going to continue to grow throughout the rest of our lives. I think so often people are looking forward to retirement. They want to stop. And my friends talk about this, and I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, why do you want to retire? Like, I have no interest in retiring. I love what I do. The fulfillment that I get from helping people, what would I retire from? This is something that I want to continue to improve at on my own, and that I want to continue to help people, because when I see one of my clients advancing through these stages that they've been struggling with in their life, that gives me more fulfillment than my own wins. Why would I ever want to stop that? And so when you compound that between me being able to continue to grow on my own in my life and keep stacking my own wins, and then you add in the fulfillment that comes from helping others, I mean, this is exciting. This is not something that I'm looking at, oh, well, maybe in 10 years or 20 years, I can wrap this up. That's illogical at that point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, brother, because I'm always like, when I'm 70, 80 years old, I'm like, why do people retire? And it's probably because they're just in a career that they truly don't love. They're just doing something for a paycheck. But I can tell that you're not doing this for a paycheck. You truly mean what you say. You are a person who's dedicated to their clients. And I know people who work with you are going to be in good hands. How can people find you?
So Instagram really is the easiest way to connect with me. I'm answering all my messages one-on-one. That's My Brother's Keeper Coaching, once again. I am on, TikTok. I have a website. I have YouTube video, but the easiest way really is Instagram, unless people are not on Instagram, in which case mybrotherskeepercoaching.com is my website for anyone that isn't on social media.
Okay, perfect. And I'll definitely make it easy for everyone. The link will be in the description box below to the Instagram and then also to the website to reach out to you if they don't have any social media. I do know people who don't have any social media. They don't like it. It just is a distraction for them. It's like, okay, I know it's not good for me, so I'm going to stay away from it. So they do like to do the website stuff. So all that will be there for people. And I encourage everyone to check out Steven because what he said in his history is not so much of just training you to sit and to do well for the moment, but to learn how to win and stack those wins in life. I want to thank you so much, Steven, for coming on, spending some time and talking about your work.
Thank you very much for having me, Michael.
All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that episode with Steven and myself. What went on in the episode is we talked all about mindset. We even did the correlation between his work as a dog trainer and how he now helps people as a mindset coach. And he even said it himself, because one of the things that were going off of my mind is people don't like to be considered a dog. For example, women hate to be considered obedient. For example, if you are a husband and a wife, your wife should be obedient to you. And if anyone is listening to this also, I'm doing air quotes obedient because I just want to kind of make the point. That can trigger people. I'm not a dog, right? I don't have to be obedient. I don't have to listen, things along those lines. But it's not so much of being obedient to the sense of servitude, okay? This can be very difficult for people to understand, because if you are maybe being reasonable, might be a better word, you can look at a relationship, and he even hinted at this, is like, hey, if dishes are not done and he has time, why not do them? You're not going to just go to your wife and say, hey, the dishes are not done, and then start yelling at her. You would be better off just doing them yourself and moving on with life. You're going to put yourself in a more positive state of mind, and you're going to strengthen the relationship. And it might seem insignificant. There are a couple of dishes maybe, but it's the idea that you might see that she's busy. Maybe you have kids. She's busy with work, the kids. Maybe she's in school. And there's different aspects of her life that she's trying to work through. But then there's going to be that this is a teamwork effort. It's not so much of you have a role, I have a role. It's the same as in the coaching client situation. It's not as much I have a role, you have a role, you need to play your role perfectly, and I need to play my role perfectly. This is almost like a dance. Both people have ownership in this, because we invest our time as coaches into clients and we see the potential within them. And it's not that we want you to pull that potential out and use it and to live your fullest life. It's we want you to understand that the life that you can have can be yours. It's about the possibilities, it's about your capability. Because this is where it gets kind of dicey, because people think, oh, a coach is trying to change me. No. A coach is trying to empower you to make changes in your life, because we can't change a person. No one can change a person. A person who wants to change will change. This is the difference between coaching and ownership, because ownership, like looking at dogs now, right? Because we have the responsibility to develop a dog that's going to be obedient, not going to be maybe barking or biting people. We set the standards, right? The expectations for regular dog ownership. But yet, when we look at life, the standards and the expectations are set at such a low bar. In school, just be quiet, listen, and do the best you can. But what if the best you can is not going to give you what you truly want? You have to learn how to elevate. You have to learn how to break the bonds and the shackles and the limits that you have within you. And this is where mindset shines, because many people think that a mindset is just a simple way of thinking. Oh, I'm thinking this way. I'm thinking positive. Mindset is so much more than that. It's the idea of going after something. And regardless of what happens, win or lose, you can be excited that you went on this journey. I'm excited that I tried this. I'm excited that I tried. Many people are too afraid to try. Many people are too afraid to put themselves out there, so they choose to not put themselves out there. They choose to remain quiet when they can be loud, and not so much of loud being obnoxious and ignorant, but loud being, this is who I am, showing the world exactly who you can be. Because for some reason, people have a bad taste in their mouth about their potential. about who they can be. They say if we play it safe, it's going to be good enough. But I don't want that good enough in life. I don't want you to have that good enough in life. But if you keep listening to the coaching in session, I can almost ensure that you're going to get into the mindset that good enough is just not going to be good for you. It's just not going to be the standard. We elevate the standard. So what standards are you going to give yourself? What type of wins are you going to be building in your life that you're going to stack and stack again until you say, it's not about the goal, it's about the journey. And this is life. Life is a journey. Yet many people, they put an end point to the journey. I'll be happy when. I'll do this when. After I do this, then I'm going to do this. Okay? There's a structured way to think. There's a structured way to live. Yet many people just haphazardly go throughout life and they find themselves at the end of it. Whoa, that was quick. They never stopped. They never paid attention. They never looked at what they were creating. They were only moving with the tide. They were moving with the world. But yet I want you to be the world. I want you to dictate what you do in your life. So at the end of it, you can say, that was a good life. Nah, there was so much more I wanted to do. Because it's easy to say you're going to do something. It can be difficult to implement it. And I have found one of the best ways to implement change, to implement the process, the mindset, if you will, get yourself, your life back on track, is to get a coach. Whether you reach out to Steven or us here at Reven Concepts, we are going to be here every step of the way for you to grow and prosper. And that is what we want you to do in life. Because again, there's going to be practices that you can be taking and learning in your life today to make you more happy, more healthy, and more effective. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.